All right, good morning, everybody. Today is Daf Sadi Daled. Oh, okay. Oh, I was turning the page. Sadi Hey, my bad. I remember saying Sadi Daled yesterday, actually. All right, fine. May I prepare the wrong daf, right? All right, fine. So, Sadi Hey. It'd be really bad if I didn't know. Yeah, I didn't remember doing it the day before. Yeah. No, from the day before, if I prepared this, if I did Sadi Daled again, right? All right, Sadi Hey. No, because I have the marker usually where I get up to, and then I was like turning back to.
Right, no one ever knows what daf is today.
It's only because of thankfully they have the little string. All right, so. Long Gemara today. Hopefully, Meretz Hashem get to the Mishnah, and we'll try not to let Pshat be ma'akev. You know what I'm saying? We got to get to it. Right. All right. Very good. So we left off 2 lines from the top, right? 2 lines from the top on Sadi Hey Amud Aleph, and away we go. So now, where do we know? That we talked about yesterday. So it was issue, and in the end we said that a woman's or a man's wife, right, went overseas, and it was said, testified by an individual that she died. So he went ahead and he thought to go ahead and marry the sister because after his wife's death, she is permitted to him, and it turns out that she was alive. So the Gemara wanted to know, why is his own wife not usher to him for the fact that he was with her sister? Shouldn't that make her usher? So the Gemara asked, and how do we know it's not usher? The time of the Brisa says, Oisa, right? The pasuk over there by Sota, it says, right? So it says over her. Now, it's only something that Osa, that the wife did, can prohibit her upon her husband. So only her own shchiva, her own lying with another man, forbids her to her husband, but someone else's being with her husband, i.e., her sister, would not forbid her. Sheyachol v'halo dinhu, because you could have actually made a logical argument the other way. Uma b'makom sheba iser kal, which we'll soon define. Or I'll define now, and then we'll, as Rashi points out now. So sometimes Rashi just says Gemara Mefarish La, right? Or oftentimes the Mishnah, and other times he tells you sort of what the Gemara is going to say later on, but sort of a shot now in the sugyas. So he says Uma b'makom shebal iser kal, if one is bal iser kal. So it defines over here an Ashes ish, right? A married woman is an iser kal because over there it doesn't last. A woman's being prohibited as an Ashes Ish only lasts throughout her marriage. But if she gets divorced, then the Isser is over. So it says, Ma Makom Shabal Isser Kal Nesar Isser. So he who goes ahead and forbids her. Now, who makes her an Ashes Ish? He does by marrying her. Right? So in a place when he's Bal Isser Kal Nesar Isser. So Malcolm Shabal Isser Chamor. In a case of where is Isser Chamor, let's say his wife's sister, which lasts after the marriage, that's throughout the lifetime. And then Shenesar Isser, certainly, he should be forbidden to her. So we want to say that since in the case of HDs that only ends then, so maybe it's something which is more Chamor should also be usher to be with her. So and where do we see this? And now the Gemara is going to explain this Kal V'chomer. So, in other words, so let's see. Amar Rabbi Yehuda, lo yinachleku beis Shammai ubeis Hillel b'va'al chamos shepaisel sishto. Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai, they have machlokes. But me machlokes as to what they're arguing between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yossi. So Rabbi Yehuda says, in a case of bal chamoso, if one has relations with his mother-in-law, shepaisel sishto, that they agree. Alma nachleku b'va'al achos ishto. In the case of where he's bal achos ishto, in such a case, so that's machlokes. Beis Shammai amir pasul. So if one is with his wife's sister, then it pasels his wife. He has to go ahead and divorce her. Beis Hillel doesn't go ahead and pasel her. So in other words, the only argument in the case of achos ishto, but in the case of chamoso, they all agree. And Amar Rabbi Yossi says no. No. They don't argue in the case of a wife's sister Shaloi Pasal CJ, that does not ask his wife upon him. Alma Nechalku. So what is the machlokes? The Baal Chamaiso, right? In the case of where he has relations with his mother-in-law. Shabei Shammai, I mean Paisel. Shabei Silo, I mean Loi Paisel. I won't tell you. So he said over here, so he says Beishamai is pasul, Beisil says Loi Paisel. Why? Lefi shebetchila hu muter b'chol nashim sheba'olam. So what's the svar over there that it brings down? In the beginning, hu muter b'chol nashim sheba'olam. According to Rabbi Yossi, he says in the beginning he's muter to every woman in the world, right? V'hi muter is b'chol nashim sheba'olam, and also as a single individual, right? She's also forbidden to everybody. So Kicho, once he's mekadesher hu oisra v'hi osra. So he forbids her. But she becomes her. You know, that which he forbids her is basically a lot of Isarasa Maruba. She's forbidden to everybody in the world. She's now an Eishes Ish. So he makes her, right, more Asr. And Isra Sha'asra, and that which she makes him Asr, right? So it says only
just on
her relatives, right? So it says Isra Sha'asra. So, right now, only that which she asks is only in her relatives, her sister, her mother, so on and so forth. That he is that right now is that he is that she is now usher to all the people in the world, and he is only forbidden to her krovim. And over there, you can make an argument. In the case over there, that he forbids her, right, and all the men in the world, shaga, if she is a case of, if it's a case, and now if he is a shogeg, right, ba'asrla, right, in a case where it's forbidden to her, ain't an aseres, right? So in that case, and he says, b'mutarla. So he says, if it's a case where, in other words, he is shogeg, or she is shaga, excuse me, right, shaga, when she becomes shogeg with another man, right, with someone who is aser to her, so she does not become aser to him because it was shogeg, right? However, he shasu ela b'kavasel, but her, and then when her, since her status is less, that she only forbids shasu ela b'kavasel, that she only forbids him with her relatives. Shagag basalo. So therefore, if he's shogeg, certainly he will not become forbidden. So since she's more machmer, nevertheless, if she's shogeg, right, with another man, she is mutter her husband. So certainly, if he is shogeg with somebody who he's forbidden with, i.e., her sister, right, then certainly he should be mutter to remain with his wife.
Go back.
So this is only the argument for shogeg, right? If he was shogeg with her sister, right, perhaps like our case. So what about the case of Mezid Menayin, Tamalemar Oisa? Then you bring the pasuk of Oisa, Oisa Shkivasa, Osrasa, and Shkivasa, Oisa, Osrasa. Only her own, a wife's own actions, her own lying with another man, right, will forbid her husband to her, as opposed to somebody else being with her husband, i.e., her sister, will not forbid her to her husband. Fine. And Omar is Amar Rabbi Ami, Amar Reish Lakish, my time with Rabbi Yehuda. So that was according to the machlokes in the case of Achos Ishto, right? That was because Achos Ishto forbids him according to Rabbi Yossi. So which is the second explanation of the machlokes between Beisil and Shammai. Now comes my time with Rabbi Yehuda. What was the reason for Rabbi Yehuda, who says they argue in that right? So it says in that case, Rabbi Yehuda says, right, Al Chamoiso. That's us. So they only argue in the case of Achos Ishto. So what's the machlokes here? So the Chesiv Pasuk says Be'esh Yisrafu Osa. So it says over there that you know he will be burnt, him, right, and them, right. Be'esh Oso Vas Hen. So what's the chart of the pasuk? The Chikol Abayis Kula. So it's and them, and I was plural female. The Chikol Abayis Kula B'Streifa. Well, everybody, right, is Chayiv Streifa. In other words, his mother-in-law and his own wife, right? That doesn't make sense because his wife didn't do anything wrong. Why should she be Chayiv Streifa? So meaning the Streifa to know Inal Yisura. So it must be okay if it's not telling you Streifa, it's telling you an Isser. In other words, they're both Isser. In other words, once if he was with his mother-in-law, then his wife becomes forbidden to him. And Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Amar Shmuel, Ein Halacha Rabbi Yehuda. The halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda. In this case, And so in other words, that in terms of her being, in other words, we hold like Rabbi Yossi and not and permitting the wife if he's with the sister. And however, one time there was a ma'isa, person had an isser with his mother-in-law. Asir Rav Yehuda Nagdis, Rav Yehuda went to go ahead and give him some alka summer late. He loved Damar Shmuel. If it wasn't for the fact that the Shmuel says, "Ein halacha Rav Yehuda, right? I would have forbid you forever." But since he said the halacha is not like Rav Yehuda, so therefore he did not, right? I guess he did not answer him. Fine. Now let's go back to our Mishnah. No. Before we go back to our Mishnah, that's the next step. So my Isser Kal. So we said before we had this Kal v'chomer, right? And we called the case of Isser Kal was the case of Eishes Ish, right? So now comes the whole Hamshach of the Gemara is going to say how we got to that maskana. So we had the Kal v'chomer before that for an Isser Kal, right? For Isser Kal, you're also forever. Certainly, an Isser Chamor, you should be also forever. So what is this Isser Kal? My Isser Kal. So maybe it's referring to Machzir Gushasa Mishanises, right? Maybe it's referring to Isser Kal is maybe when a man divorces his wife, she goes ahead and marries somebody else. That marriage ends. Let's say divorces him. He is forbidden to go ahead and take her back if she's been with somebody else in a marriage. So, right. So in this case, so we say, Baal. So in that case, also, so it says Baal Lahai, right? So Asher Lahai. If the second one, right, the second guy goes ahead and marries her, so then he asers, right? Once the second guy marries the woman, now he asers her on the first husband. So Baal Idach Asher Lahai, and therefore, right, when if the first husband goes back and is with her, then the second one is also becomes us. So God says, no, you can't call it Isser Kal because there's certain chumas, there's certain reasons to say why it's more chomer. Right? Once she gets married, because first of all, that which is being done here, right, is being done with her body. She's the one actively doing the Isser. Visura barov, right? And her Isser is basically anybody in the world can go ahead and make her a machzur gushasa by after the first guy gets divorced by going ahead and marrying this lady. Right? And once she's usher, once she marries somebody else, she's forbidden forever for her first husband. So we're talking about maybe it's the Yavama is this Isser Kal. What does this mean? Who's the Yavama to? If we're talking about that, in other words, that she was with somebody else, like Rav Hamnuna says, in other words, if she was supposed to do Yibum and then she was with somebody else, and therefore she's Mizana, and she's called a right, and she becomes Asur Yibama. She's Asur now to do Yibum again. So So first of all, she's doing this with her body. Visur Barov, and her Surim is also on majority people. So Ella Yavam. Rather, we're talking about maybe it's referring to Yavam, the Achin to the other brothers. In other words, is one does. So if basically how is she forbidden to her brothers? If she does mimer, right? If she does mimer with one of the brothers, there's 5 brothers, let's say, she does mimer with one of them, which is like Kedushin, which is Kedushin D'Rabbanan, right? So the other brothers are now usher to her. So maybe that Isser we're talking about is the Isser Kal, right? So he says, Abba b'maimer, hi Asra Allah, right? So he says, if you go ahead and do mimer, so Asra Allah dahai, she comes Asra the other ones. And Ba'ala idach, one of the other brothers, even though she already did mimer, was Ba'ala, Asra Allah, she now becomes Asra to the first one. So Asra Allah dahai, so he comes to the one who did mimer. So Gemara says, if that's the case, my area is Shabala Sheni. Why does it say Ba'ala Sheni? Right, so it says right. So it says, we're talking about a case over where she's bala. Afilu abba nami mimer. So in other words, over here, if she does mimer with one brother, and then another brother is bala, she becomes usher to the first one who did mimer with her. But you don't need it to be bala, right? If that was the case of the Kal V'chomer, you can just say the second brother also did mimer.
The mimer actually works.
So the Gemara says once the first kasha's answer is hello kasha damar ein mimer achar mimer. Oh, ein achar mimer. Therefore, the second one's mimer is ineffective.
We have something before with when the younger brother does mimer before the older brother.
Right.
Yeah, the button, the.
Which I mean, right, a cotton, or then we have to wait.
No,
But what-
it wasn't a cotton. It didn't have to be a
Right,
cotton.
but it's not the oldest.
Yeah,
Right. So, but we say, but once you, right, and that was when you jumped the gun, but we don't say that, because there was a machlokes whether there was the mitzvah v'dafka with the oldest, right? Or could it be any of the brothers, and one of the other brothers jumped the gun? But everyone will hold it as effective, right? The original mimer would be effective.
Right.
So Ella, so even okay, don't say mimer, but nevertheless, you still don't need to be bold. Ella feel naslan get feel cholatzla, right? Even if the other brother B or C, whatever you want, right, goes out and gives her a get, from even though the first one did mimer, or vafilu chalatzla, or he does chalitza to her, right? Since the full mimer doesn't acquire her completely, it also now forbids the original husband. So Elam Rabbi Yechon, maybe we're talking about a sota. So sota laman, who's she forbidden to? Elaim labal, if sota the husband. So Baal, that the husband is Baal, so Asra Allah, the Baal, right? So he says now she's forbidden to the Baal. So my area Baal. Why is it Baal? Filo not going to get. Filo Amar ain't any mishaka. Or why is she become forbidden? Right to him. If he just says, right, I'm not going to make you drink, or gives her a get, she becomes asita. So Ella, maybe we want to say sota leboil to the other guy, the guy who she was there was a chashad with. So ha isser kalu, is that isser kal? Isser chamor dainu eishes ish. This is an eishes ish, which is which would result in a mamzer. So Ella rather. Amarava eishes ish. Really over here, that kavachomer, which you want to say that perhaps we want to go ahead and forbid one's wife, and maybe refer to the kavachomer of an eishes ish. V'chein ki yasser Rabin Rabbi Yochanan says befavorish eishes ish. Right, he says befavorish my karla iser kal. Why is it called iser kal? Shein ha'isra isra kol yamav. Because he, when he asks her, it's not such a strict isser, because it doesn't last forever. It only lasts the length of the marriage, right? That's the shortest isser there is, right? Other issues could be during one's lifetime, or it could be even after another person's lifetime. It goes forever. An eishes ish, a married woman, is only forbidden while she's married. But if she gets divorced or widowed, then her status of being an eishes ish is removed. Therefore, that's called an eishes. That's called an isser kal. And Tanya Achison, we learned before in Brisa.
Eishes is the
Is the isser kal in that kal v'chomer? Because since it doesn't last forever, it's only during the marriage, as opposed to a wife's sister outlasts the marriage until the wife dies.
Right.
No, it's not forever.
Right.
Right, life that's which is longer. Right, it could be the same length as the marriage, because if she dies, right, at least, right. So therefore, that's considered. So that's going to be
Her mother would also outlast the marriage, wouldn't it?
Versus anything.
right, exactly.
The mother.
Well, that was my close between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yossi as to what the chamosa, whether they argue in that or not, based on Beis Shammai. One says
Whether it would.
Whether if one was with it, or no, you're talking about the Isser. Oh, okay, I was talking about something else. Yeah. So the Isser of chamoso would be
Also
forever.
outlast the marriage.
Right. That's forever.
It's like the
That's
color
right.
and the head.
Yeah.
Like we said about the sister.
So now, Tani Nami Hakisim learn as Abba Chanan Omer Mishum Rabbi Elazar Eishes Ish. He says before says Eishes Ish. Mabu Makom Habal Isser Kal. If one is Bal Isser Kal, i.e. the Eishes Ish Shein HaOisra Oisra Kol Yamav. Right, because over there, right, is not forbidden for ever. So Nesar Iser, nevertheless, right, he himself becomes Aser. So Haba al Iser Chamor. So once Iser Kol Yamav, Einodin Shenesar Iser. Right. So therefore, you might think that the Iser should apply forever. So in other words, that if one was with one wife's sister, right, if the Eish is Aser forever, certainly. Right, that to be, as if the woman is mizana, right, she is becomes usher. So certainly, if he's with a more chamer isser, i.e., his wife's sister, because that isser lasts longer, right? certainly he should be aser, right? So he's with his wife's sister, right? Shnemar Isa. Tamalaymer. Therefore, we learn from the pasuk Isa. Right now, it says so. The Osa Shchibasa knows only a woman's own actions can forbid her. However, the actions of her sister cannot forbid her to her husband. Fine. Now, Rabbi Yossi. What are we going to do with Rabbi Yossi? So Rabbi Yossi said in our Mishnah, right? And it was a hint to it in the Gemara, right? There's sort of a pshat that we read it, and it sort of flows in the Gemara. But the Gemara doesn't take it for granted because there's going to be a double lashon. If I could just find the Mishnah, I remember it was the top of Amud Beis. Was it? Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, I know it's the top summer. Okay, fine. Yeah, very good. Right. It was yesterday. Right. See, I already forgot yesterday. So Rabbi Yossi said. So now we're going back to the case. We had a case of a man who was married to a woman, and that's a good starting, right? And her sister, and her. And we'll say that that the wife went off on a trip. But however, she also has a sister who is married.
With her,
His sister is married, and his brother-in-law also went on a trip. So in that case over there, we says, and there was rumor that they both died, so he went ahead and married the sister. Then all of a sudden they come back. So we said the Tanna Kama held. The guy is always mutter. To in the case, the woman, right? The guy is able to be with his first wife. He's able to take her back, and it's different than the other case of a woman who does even with a guy that she's punished. That was the Tanna Kama. Always mutter. The guy is always mutter to take back the sister, his original wife.
So the brother-in-law can go back to the sister.
No. He can take his wife back, but his brother-in-law returns done.
Take her back.
What?
One is done.
He can take back his wife who comes back, but his brother-in-law who came back is Usher.
He's Usher on his wife.
Right, he's Usher on his wife because she is punished. She should be more careful who she remarries. Right. The guy isn't punished like that. That's what he said. Now, says Rabbi Yossi. So Rabbi Yossi's comment in our Mishnah, I'm just reading for the Mishnah, was Kol. Right, so his comment over there was, so whoever apostles others, apostles himself, and whoever doesn't apostle others, doesn't apostle himself. So the reading is, right, our understanding in the beginning was, if he makes his brother-in-law,
who is it?
The original husband, original husband.
It's not Reuven.
Reuven. There's no dying here. I don't care. You're over in this case.
The original husband.
Reuven, right? Reuven. Since Reuven is answering his brother-in-law Shimon when he returns, right? To be his his wife's sister. So too, he is answered to his wife.
Wow.
Now, Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi, Kosher Paisa de Acherim, Paisa de Asa, but Kosher ain't Paisa, but he doesn't pass him, then any Paisa de Asa, then he's not passing himself. Now, let's go back to our Gemara. So let's see. My Kama Rabbi Yossi. What's Rabbi Yossi saying? If you want to say, okay, what's the Tanna Kama saying? Remember, Rabbi Yossi is commenting on the Tanna Kama. If the Tanna Kama is saying to Azil Ishto, the Gisa, the Medina Siyam, that his wife and his brother-in-law went off to Medina Siyam. Right, he's married to Leah. Right, Reuben is married to Leah, and Rachel is her sister. Right, that stayed back with Reuben. Now, Tanakam does Ishto the Gisa the Medina Siyam Ashes, and so we say over there Ashes Gisa Asira Vishto Sharia, and in that case we'll say that his Rachel is also to Shimon when he returns, but in the Tanakam says, but his wife. But Reuven is able to go ahead and take back Leah. The Kamar Rabbi Yossi and there Rabbi says, the Ishta Sharia, Aisha's Gisa Nami Sharia. No, that just like since Reuven is able to take back Leah, so too Shimon should be able to Rachel. So it says, if that's the case, Kol Shein. So Kol Shein Posai de Acherim Ein Posai de Atzmo. All right. Kol Shein Posai de Atzmo Ein Posai de Acherim. It should read the other way around. That since he's not answering himself, he's not answering his brother-in-law, right? That's how it should read. So, right. We're trying to say the lush of Rabbi Yossi. So what's Rabbi Yossi commenting on? So there's an answer. Savella Ki hechi the Rabbi will say this. Bela ki hechi the Eishes Giso Asira Ishtonami Asira. So we'll say, okay, no, we're talking about the case of since that his brother-in-law, right, Shimon is going to be Asir on Rachel. So too, Ishtonami Asira is Asir. His wife also, Leo also be Asir to Reuben. Seitina kosher paisel. Okay, so this works out in this double lashon because it says kosher paisel the apostles. But what's the case? Jaina paisel Mavi does say. What's the scenario of where he doesn't pass it? If we're talking about a case of passing, so Rabbi Ami, now we're gonna have two terutzim. Rabbi Ami and I think Rabbi Yitzchak Nafla. Now, Rabbi Ami comes to the easier pshat, which you sort of have to sort of read at the mission, which is sort of the way that we read yesterday. So Rabbi Ami, so he says, Aresha is going in the case of the Aresha. Anises alpi bezdin, teitse, turmina karban. If one is nises alpi bezdin, in other words, a woman goes ahead and marries based upon one witness, and she goes to Bezdin, and the guy and her husband returns her. We say she's also to both husbands. But if it's alpi edim, but it's two witnesses, then teitze v'chayves v'korban. And then she leaves the first husband, or excuse me, the second husband. She's chayves v'korban. She goes back to the first husband. So Yafak Shel Bezdin. That was the case of the Yafak Shel Bezdin. She threw me a korban. The cover Tanakam and the Tanakam says that loishna alpi edim. The Eishes Gisa Sharia, V'loishna alpi Bezdin. The Eishes Gisa Asira. Right? Maybe, and over there in that case, the Tanakama is the Tanakama says, okay, it doesn't make a difference what the status is between Shimon and Rachel. In other words, why Rachel went ahead and married Ruvain, right? Why that was because either way, Ruvain is going to be mutter to his wife. We don't care about the status of Shimon's marriage, whether he can go back to his wife. All we know, says the Tanakama, is that Ruvain is mutter. And on that, right, and the Kamar Le Rabbi Yosi, no, Alpi based in the Paisel Aideh Cherim, Paisel Yasmo. If it's Alpi based in that he pasels Aideh Cherim, that makes Shimon Aser, Paisel Yasmo. If it's Alpi Eidim, but if it's two witnesses, right, the Eino Postel, then in that case, Shimon is not forbidden to Rachel. Why? Because Rachel had two witnesses testify that her husband was dead.
So
and since that was the case, since she is mutter to go back, ain't a place that they ask.
So
Not
the difference
himself.
is really.
Yes, that's right. That's so. In other words, the difference in the two cases, whether there's witnesses. In other words, but according to this, Rabbi Yossi always says, right. So in that case, right, it depends on two witnesses or one witness. That's what Rabbi Ami says the distinction is, right? So if there's two witnesses there, right? So Tanakama, remember, Tanakama says always mutter. Ruvain's always mutter to his wife. Rabbi Yossi says not so fast, right? If she had two witnesses, if Rachel had two witnesses, then since she's with her husband, he's also to his wife. But if there's only one witness, and she's also to her husband, then Reuven's also going to be also to Leah, to his wife. Now, that was Rabbi Ami, which is the simple, quote unquote, simple understanding of Rabbi
He's
Shimon.
probably correcting Rabbi Yossi.
Well, he had to use the words of Rabbi Yossi to understand it. Right.
They still agree that one witness is enough to let her get remarried and not stand.
Yeah, that's not the argument. The only argument is when they come back. When they come back is what is the status of her? Who does she go to? Does she have to divorce both or not? Fine. Now, Rabbi Yitzchak Nachla Omar says something a little different. Everyone's going in the safer. We're not going back to the ratio. So what's the case over here? So he says, and he says, Azli Arusasa V'Gisa. The Azli Ishta V'Gisa. What are the two cases? In other words, remember, Rabbi Yossi says two statements, right? If he passes, right, if he passes others, passes himself. Others aren't puzzle, he's not puzzle himself. What's that going on? We're not talking about the distinction between the two cases is one witness, two witnesses, right? The distinction is, in one case, it's only his arusa. He only got betrothed her. Only erusa, only kedusha, right? The other case is ishto, right? We're going to call ishto his wife. So one is arusaso.
The sister or the original wife?
Of him and original wife, for Reuven, right? Hazi arusaso v'gisa, hadazi ishto v'gisa. Now, we'll see. Let's see. The Kamar Tanakama. The Tanakama says, Leishna ishto v'gisa, Leishna arusaso v'gisa. It doesn't make a difference when Leah went overseas, right, with his brother-in-law, right? And they've been married for 10 years, Shimon and Rachel. So it doesn't make a difference whether Reuven was just Mekadesh her, it was just Erusin, or he was completely married to her. Says the Tanakama. Tanakama loishna ishta v'gisa loishna arisas v'gisa. Eishes gisu asira v'ishta sharia. Shimon is usher to his wife because she, as a woman, right, married him, and therefore ushered Shimon. But him, right, Ruvain is mutter to
Yeah, but that's,
Leah, whether Leah is his arusa or his isha.
no, but in this case, it's only towards Reuven, not towards Shimon. If she's a Rusa, makes it just easier for Reuven to remarry or to get back his
So he can be-
Arusa.
But he's right. He's allowed to be back with her.
Shimon is got stuck.
Shimon is stuck. So on that, the Kamer Rabbi Yossi says, no. It's not always mutter. It's not always mutter to take back as a russo. We'll soon see why.
Oh.
Why is that? The Kamer Rabbi Yossi, Ishta v'gisa, when it comes to his wife,
Yeah.
right? In other words, he was fully married to her, and the brother-in-law, Delek Lameimar Tanai Havi Leben Nesuin. Over there, there's no confusion there. If he was married to Leah, then everyone knows he was married to Leah originally, and then the kedushin with Rachel was nothing because he was married to her. No, Shimon was married.
Shimon is
She was
married.
the other brother.
Shimon and Rachel married.
Shimon was married to Rachel. Shimon's
Rachel.
younger and Rachel is younger. So just go
Okay.
there. Yeah.
So Shimon was married to
Rachel.
Shimon was married to Rachel. Right. So the question is, and Ruvain was Erusin. Right.
To Leah.
So that's a decision according to Rabbi Yossi. Now let's go back. If he was simply married to him, in other words, both cases were full marriage. So no one's gonna assume that his kedushin, that Reuven's kedushin was chal with Rachel while their spouses were overseas. Why? Because his wife was alive the whole time and she was a married woman. So obviously the kedushin was not chal. So the kedushin is not chal. There's no need to make a gzeira. The lekal and meimer tonight havi libin asuin. No one will say there was a condition to suin and really maybe they weren't married, right? The ain't a paisai dechem, ain't a paisai de'atzma. In that case, since she is not pasai de'acher, we're not going to ay de'acher, right? So in that case, since he was ain't a paisai de'acher, ain't a paisai de'atzma. So in this case. So since in this case that he's not passing, right? So since his marriage to her, right? So now he's arguing basically what our premise before. Since over here, his kedushin was nothing with her.
Right. She's
Therefore, Shimon is now okay to be with his wife.
to go back to.
To go back to Rachel. Because no one will assume that the kedushin was ever chal, and since the kedushin was never chal, it's all good, right? They don't play so. However, our so, but in the case of
that's what we're talking about. This case.
no, Reuven. Shimon was always
because Reuven kedushin to Leah was not doesn't make any difference.
No, if it was Reuven was
non-married yet. It's just
No.
kedushin to Leah.
both those
To
cases,
Leah.
right? Both those cases we just said. If it was married, right? No one's confused. No one thinks that the marriage was
Right.
also with her sister. So therefore, you can go back to the first one. And also, since that when they were, the other two were overseas, that was nothing. She's also mutter to her husband. Both couples are mutter in the case of both fully married. We're changing what Rabbi Yisrael is changing what we said before. However, if it's a case of arusaso v'giso, but it was only engagement, now the ikla meimar tonight have the kedushin. Some people might say, oh, maybe there was a tonight kedushin, right? The Gemara kedushin we'll see later. A couple of masechtas. There's oftentimes if this condition happens, that condition happens. So all of a sudden, what's going to happen? People might say, oh, wait, maybe there was a condition on their marriage. Maybe the condition was, hey, if you come back on your voyage after 30 days, then you're Mekudesh. She never came back. Therefore, there was never a kedushin was chal between Reuven and Leah. And therefore, people will think that Reuven is now married to Leah, to Rachel. So since it can cause confusion, and therefore, since there's confusion there, she is puzzled to Shimon. So to he himself is puzzled to
Shimon
to
was
her.
married to Rachel, right?
Right, but now she's also right.
Now she also to her
Because all of a
to him,
sudden,
to- but-
There's confusion there, right? And Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel halacha Rabbi Yossi. The halacha is like Rabbi Yossi. but he doesn't say which Rabbi Yossi. It was it Rabbi Yossi who made the distinction between Arusa and Nesua, or the distinction between one witness and two witnesses. And we'll soon see. So I'm Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi. So I'm asking Rabbi Yossi. Umi Omar Shmuel Hachi. Did Shmuel say this? The halach is like Rabbi Yossi. Vayitzmar Yevama. Now this general case of Yevama, we have to explain what this is. We're going to have three pshatim. One is no at the Ar Gemara, and the other two are going to be separate machlokes, which you've seen before. Now Yevama, Rav Omar Harehi Ke'eshes Ish. A Yevama, one said this, we have to understand what this means, is like an Eshes Ish. Ushmol Omar ain't a Keshes Ish. Now like an Eshes. Rav Huna. And says Rav Huna, what's the case? Kagon Shekidesh Achiv Esa Isha, that his brother went ahead and was Makadesh a woman. And then he went off to sea. All right, so the one is Kedushin, and then the Kedushin went off to sea. And then he heard his brother dies, and then he went ahead and married his wife, right? Derav Omar Harehi Ke'eshes Ish. She is like Eshes Ish, Vasura leYavam, and is forbidden, right, to her Yavam, in other words, to the new Yavam. In other words, she's an Eshes Ish. She's married the second person, right? Because we'll say that the Kedushin was never Chal, right? Maybe it was Al Tanai, and therefore he married the second one, right? She was married to the second guy, right? And therefore she's now Aser. Right? And Shmuel says, so Shmuel is the one we brought in here, right? She is not, right, in a Ish, and therefore she's mutter, right? So how could you say before Shmuel, the halacha is like Rabbi Yossi, that over here, right? So it wouldn't be like Rabbi Yossi. So Amarle Abaye, we might the Amar Shmuel Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yossi Nafal Kamar. Who says that when he said the halacha is like Rabbi Yossi, it was going according to the way of Rabbi Yossi Nafal, who explained it as there's a distinction between Erisin and Kedushin, right? Dilma Rabbi Yami Kamar, right? Maybe it's like Rabbi Yami, right? Or in other words, we say it's like Rabbi Yami. Now it only had to do with one mitzvah or two mitzvahs. That was the case of like Rabbi Yossi. Binami, or Nafcha. Maybe in the case of Rabbi Yossi Nafcha, yes, we go like Rabbi Yossi. Mimai the apostle. Who says we're talking about the case when he apostles? In other words, we said that apostle, the case of Rabbi Yossi's statement was going on Erison. The Dilma, right? Turn the page. Ain't apostle. Maybe we're only going to the ain't apostle, since in the case of full marriage, the other one is not usher, so too he is not usher, and therefore everyone's good. Inami. Or you can say, what's this machlokes over there where Shmuel says? Nothing. It says that Yevama is like an Esha. The Shmuel Amar ain't okay. What's that talking about? Inami might be so the Rav Huna. Maybe talking about that. Double less of the Rav Huna. Maybe we're not going what Rav Huna's explanation of machlokes was. Maybe the machlokes over there between Rav and Shmuel, and when Shmuel says ain't okay, right, is but Rav Huna coming like Rav Huna, Dam Rav Huna, Shomeres Yavam Shezinsa, right? A Shomeres Yavam, a woman is waiting for a Yibum, and then she's Mizana with somebody else. Asur Yavama, she is Asur to her to Yibum, right? The Rav Oma Harehi Ke'eshes Ish. Rav says she's like a married woman, Umisa, and therefore she's apostle, Umisa business. Ushmal Amar Eno Ke'eshes Ish. Now not like an Ish, below Umisa business, and therefore it's Nasur apostle or V'inami, or you can say. Maybe we're talking about Kedushin types. Maybe over there, when it means a Yavama is like an Eshes Ish, it's only talking about whether somebody else comes from the shuk and tries to give her kesef Kedushin while she's waiting to do Yibum with one of the brothers. Rav Amare Keshes Ish v'lo taps the Kedushin. Rav, she's like a married woman. Her zika is so, her bond is so strong to the brother that the Kedushin from somebody else is not typhus, doesn't work. Shmuel Amar ain't no Keshes Ish. And Shmuel says no, she's not like an Eshes Ish, but does like Kedushin. Therefore, the Kedushin l'chara is chal to some level. Vaha says, wait, why would this be the machlokes over there? Vaha if it would be chad siman. Didn't Rav and Shmuel have this machlokes beferish? So our answer is no. Chad mechlad chaver to itmar. Right. In other words, one was said and the other was inferred. In other words, once you say that it's usher, you're also saying that it's like she was an Eshes Ish. And the one who says not usher will be like she was not an Eshes Ish.
Stop here. Different direction.